United States submarine base at Key West, Florida. A dispatch that quoted President Truman's press secretary, Charles Ross, as saying that President Truman has no knowledge of any secret project by this government that would give substance to the existence of such objects. Ross also said that both the Air Force and the Navy deny such objects.
Hey. I'm sorry if I sound sick. It's because I am.
Hi. I was sick, and then I went and got a massage, and I felt better.
Oh, that sounds so good, honestly. Even though I feel like if I was to get massage, they would just like move all the mucus back into my sinuses and clog me up more. But yeah. Anyway. Hey, what's up? My name is Noelle, and I am a giant booger.
And I'm Chelsea. I lost faith in the mall today because I went there and I found nothing.
Dude, the mall is a fucking cesspool of death and desolate. There's nothing.
I have needed to go grab a pair of jeans for my niece. American Eagle is no longer at the Newgate Mall. And I was like, it's just a Dillard's there. I'm like, no one shops at Dillard's. I've never shopped at Dillard's.
No one shops at Dillard's. It's not a real place.
And then I went into a few of the fan stores that sell jerseys and stuff looking for Utah Hockey League gear. And we had this discussion already. One shirt was $79, or one hoodie was $79.99. No extended sizes. So I had to order it off the internet. Yeah. I was like, why did I even come here?
Yeah, it's brutal out here. The malls are awful. And you want to know what it is? I'll tell you before we get into the episode. Malls are dead because not just because it's easier to shop online, because sometimes it's not, okay? It's because of mall walkers. Mall walkers and families of 25, I assume, walking side by side, taking up an entire walkway, moving -5 miles an hour. A mall is the only place you'll see a double wide stroller.
Yeah, I saw one. And they were renting out little motorcycles for children that were the size of a shopping cart.
Yep. The only two places in the world where you will see a double wide side by side stroller, which is that is the biggest middle finger to every other person in your vicinity. Yes. Why don't you just spit in my fucking face? Honestly, because that would be cooler than you getting in the entire way of everyone with your double wide side by side stroller. The two places, okay? I'm assuming they only exist there as well. Malls and Disneyland. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the only two fucking places where the most inconsiderate motherfuckers just like manifest. They just like appear and take up entire walkways. So that's why I think malls are dying.
The air in the mall is loud. And I don't know how to explain it in such a way, but the Newgate Mall, the Ogden Mall, has a full train that runs through it, and you never hear it coming until it's right up behind you. And then they honk at you.
That's crazy.
And you got to just leap out of the way.
That's actually insane. I totally agree with you. The smell of a mall is loud. It's like when you're driving through a snowstorm and you have to turn down the music so you can see better. Like that's what it's like being inside of a mall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I assume you're going to get sick too.
Yeah.
Everyone's coughing.
It's like when you go to an indoor pool and the echoing has a mall's not quite like that, but it has that feel.
Yeah.
Everything is surreally loud. And then you go into stores and like these poor salespeople, I was just harassed the second I stepped into one of the places because the guy was like, "What are you looking for?" I was like, "Oh, just stocking stuffers." And he proceeds to give me a 45-minute long spiel about everything they have in the store.
You're the first person he's seen in 17 years. So
yeah. And I feel like I may be the first one to look at him and acknowledge that the poor human being is just trying to get through. So I had to listen to the full, like, he was like, "Can I show you the cups?" And I said, I'm not interested in cups. And then he proceeds to show me every cup in existence. And the whole time I'm just doing that white people smile meme where you just go totally flat-lipped, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he was done, and I went, oh, thank you. And I walked out. Terrible experience. The worst.
Yeah. You know, it's tough. Trust me, I used to work at Lush back in the day, and everyone knows how Lush employees are on you like white on rice.
I know I'm going to one up you, and I don't like to do this.
I can't
hate
wait.
this as a personality trait. I worked at a T-Mobile kiosk in the middle of a walkway.
A kiosk. So you were like the people trying to get you to drink their little supplements and use the hair straightener. That was you, but with T-Mobile.
Yeah, and it was very much, hey, what kind of phone you got? Hey, what kind of phone you got? As they walk away, and you're like, ah.
What was the goal of your job? To sell a phone?
This T-Mobile, dude. Yeah, trying to get people to buy phones.
To like convert people to T-Mobile?
Yeah, or get them to upgrade, get them to add a line. Just trying to sell T-Mobile.
That's crazy.
Well, it was rough.
Yeah, at least I was peddling the good shit. You're peddling T-Mobile.
Well, and at least people came to you.
Yeah.
With an intention.
Yeah.
I was just in the middle of the walkway at a kiosk being like, hey. And people would try to not make eye contact with me.
Very like 1920s of you. Very like 1920s in New York of you.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Selling papes.
I say this with peace and love in my heart. If I ever got to the point where I was having to work in a kiosk in the center of a mall, not even in an established building, in a kiosk in the middle of it, where I have to like demand people's attention and hopefully they, buy whatever I'm peddling.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes to that, I'm selling crack, dude. I'm selling crack. I'm just going to sell crack.
Take me out to pasture and just shoot me.
I'm just
you don't even have to use a
crack.
Yeah, you don't even have to use a bullet. You can just beat me to death with a gun.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, just pistol whip me to death. That's crazy. Shout out to your degree once again at use in the T-Mobile kiosk.
Yeah. Well, this was in between the semester that I transferred from the University of Utah to Weber State, and it really made me appreciate just anything. It was fun though. The old people who walk through the mall, we called them the Ents.
The Ents.
Yeah, from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, those are the mall walkers. Yeah. Those are the ones ruining the time. We know. So, Anyway, speaking of nothing related to malls.
But everything related to corporate scheming.
Yeah, honestly, everything related to the downfall of this country.
Yeah, unnecessarily paying for shit you don't need, that you desperately need and don't get. We're going to dive into the assassination of the UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, a man at the center of a brewing storm of insider trading allegations and corporate misconduct. But it doesn't end there, because we're also going to talk about Luigi Mangione. I really want to say Mangione, but it's Mangione.
I think if you say it with an accent, you could do it.
Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now it's good.
The so-called assassin whose arrest raises more questions than answers. And to fully understand this modern tragedy, we will explore the long history of scapegoating, a tactic as old as humanity itself. And by the time we're done, we hope that you see the headlines a little bit differently. So let's go. So as we all should know, in case you've been living under a rock, on December 3rd, 2024, Manhattan's bustling streets turned into a crime scene as Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare, was gunned down outside the Hilton Hotel. The media initially called it a robbery gone wrong, but was it? Because the timing couldn't have been more suspicious. Because just weeks earlier, Thompson had sold $15 million worth of stock, perfectly timed before the Department of Justice announced its probe into UnitedHealthcare. The DOJ was investigating allegations of insider trading and anti-competitive practices, and Thompson was at the center of it all.
To add more paint to this picture, Brian Thompson paid $22 million in Bitcoin to ransomware hackers because of an attack on February 21st, 2024, targeting their Change Healthcare unit. It exposed the data of approximately 110 million people, about 1/3 of Americans. The leaked information included medical records, contact details, and personally identifiable information. This breach happened because the company was cutting corners on its data safety protocols. In November of 2022, two families of now deceased former beneficiaries of UnitedHealthcare filed a lawsuit alleging the company knowingly used faulty artificial intelligence to deny elderly patients coverage for extended care recommended by their doctors. The lawsuit specifically claims the issue is not the use of AI itself, but rather that UnitedHealthcare knowingly relied on an AI system that they knew had a 90% error rate to deny legitimate claims, prioritizing profitability over patient care. UnitedHealthcare is estimated to earn over $30 billion with a B in annual profits.
And real quick, you and I looked at this a little bit, but when we talk about a 90% error rate to deny legitimate claims, a lot of it was not covering changing the briefs of people in elderly care.
Mhm.
So they're not, and you call them, I learned this, you call them briefs, not diapers when you're an adult. They're not changing soiled briefs, and they're limiting the amount that people have access to, like the elderly. So if you go through your 2 briefs a day, and also you're in a facility that's not hiring enough staff to take you to the bathroom, it means that you're just sitting in soiled pants the whole day, getting infections that aren't going to be covered, losing your dignity, being mistreated, all so that this guy can pad his fucking pockets.
Yeah.
The bare minimum
of
human dignity.
I wanted to point out
it.
the $30 billion in annual profits because a lot of, I don't know what else to call them other than like healthcare bootlickers. A lot of people who are in denial about how corrupt our healthcare system is in the United States will always try to justify commoditizing healthcare and commoditizing care in general by saying like, well, they don't make any profits. The margins are slim. They'll literally, that's a direct quote, the margins are slim. 30 billion with a fucking B, pure profits annually is a slim fucking margin. Go fuck yourself. And honestly, perfect segue to this. In the words of Bill Burr, comedian, he's fantastic.
Love him.
I love that fucking CEOs are all fucking afraid right now. You should be. By and large, you're all a bunch of selfish, greedy, fucking pieces of shit, and a lot of you are mass murderers. You just don't pull the trigger.
Exactly. And under his leadership, UnitedHealthcare grew into a behemoth, but not without controversy. The company's claim denial rate stood at 32%, which is the highest in the industry. And if you compare that to competitors like Kaiser, which denied only 7%, an insider whistleblower described it as denial for profit. There was one tweet from @HealthWatchdog that put it bluntly: Thompson's policies didn't just hurt patients, they killed them. And the murder of Brian Thompson just is not a tragedy. It isn't. It's not a tragedy at all.
Not even in the slightest.
If we're going to define it, we're going to say it's merely the first domino in a larger conspiracy that we're only beginning to unravel. So 2 weeks after Thompson's murder, Luigi Mangione was arrested at McDonald's in what seems like an airtight case. He was found with the alleged murder weapon, a so-called manifesto, and a suspiciously detailed confession. But dig a little deeper, and the story starts to fall apart. Mangione's family had reported him missing weeks before the murder, and they described erratic behavior and a history of mental health struggles. Yet, somehow, he resurfaces conveniently with all the evidence in hand. There was another tweet from Expose the Frame that asked a question that was on everyone's mind. How does a man disappear, then show up with a confession tailor-made for a courtroom? This isn't justice, it's a cover-up.
I also want to say something that I read and totally spaced on, and I bet a bunch of people did as well. They have both said that they found the backpack because it was left in New York and that it was on him when he was arrested in McDonald's. And it's like, which one is it? And it seems like everyone's too caught up in the, hubbubaloo of it all to like realize that they've even contradicted themselves.
Make it make sense. Everybody went feral over it being found with Monopoly money in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, they are expecting the police lauded this as a professional job by a paid hitman where they are lauding how he got away and disappeared. And then at the same time, this supposed professional is going to be caught days later in a McDonald's with everything needed to arrest him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insane.
And we're watching some events unfold in real time that add to the tinfoil. First, the Lakeland Police Department in Florida charged Brianna Boston, a 42-year-old mother of three, with making threats to conduct a mass shooting or act of terrorism. Why? Because she said, quote, delay, deny, depose, you people are next, during a phone call with her health insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, after they had denied her medical claim. Boston later apologized, explaining that she used the phrase because it's been circulating in the news recently around healthcare. She also expressed frustrations with the health insurance companies, stating that they, quote, played games and, quote, deserved karma from the world because they are evil. She has no prior convictions and does not own any firearms.
To take that as a threat to arrest somebody, that's like another thing that's insane is now they're trying to put a boot on the neck of anyone who agrees with that.
Yep.
Who even says that sentiment. And that is just regurgitating what the healthcare people were doing in the first place. Could you imagine being like, eat the rich and then getting arrested for that and labeled as a terrorist?
Yep.
It blows my mind.
I know.
Saying, like, you people are next, like on a phone call. We've been threatened to get shot at work and nothing happened.
Yeah, we've been threatened that they're going to like come and bomb us and nothing happened. It's literally on the phone just as customer service reps, which is exactly what happened here. It's fucking insane. And then, of course, shortly after, we see Luigi being charged with murder as an act of terrorism. They're using a 9/11 era anti-terrorism law to do it, which is insane because this wasn't a cross-border extremist plot to kill masses of people. The Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, said, quote, the intent was to sow terror. He also noted that the shooting unfolded early on a workday in heavily trafficked business and tourist areas as the reason as to why this is, quote, terrorism. They don't even charge school shooters with terrorism. And I just want everyone to know that out of the 450 something shooters we've had in the United States and the, I think, 91,000 children who have been victim to gun violence in schools, none of those perpetrators have been like given the charge of fucking terrorism. But this guy who shoots one fucking CEO, yeah, come on. It's the most insane shit in the entire fucking world. So anyway, and then of course, the mom.
Yeah.
The mom of three is also facing up to 15 years.
If he went into a school and shot it up, he would technically be getting hit with like lesser charges.
He would
It's
because
insane.
The state of New York extradited him, and then the Fed is charging him. Those are considered two separate bodies, and it won't count as double jeopardy. So they can both try him. And when the Fed comes in, it'll be up for the death penalty. So by definition, if he would have shot up a fucking school full of elementary schoolers, he would have gotten off easier than he is here shooting one fucking CEO.
One thing that's been circulating a lot is like how we live in a completely different reality in terms of like if you and I were gunned down and the exact same evidence happened, it would be nothing, right? It would be just like an open, closed case.
Yep.
I could go to the police and I could say that I'm experiencing violence. I could provide all of the evidence for it. And then if I inevitably die, it's, you know what? She should have left. But then if you have one guy, a billionaire who, I don't know, it just makes, it doesn't, if you're a billionaire, your murder counts more.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Millions, like all the people who are victims of like gun crime or intimate partner violence. Like one person's death counts more.
I mean, even think about it like this. This mother of three who doesn't own a fucking firearm in her house, has never had any prior convictions, is completely nonviolent, is the most least threatening person to the public, right? Is getting hit with a fucking terrorism charge. Yeah. There are people who are at the police's headquarters every fucking day, calling the police every fucking day. Like, my ex is trying to bang down my fucking door. He's stalking me. He's threatened me with like a fucking gun. He's threatened my life. He's threatening my kids. And they're like, oh, we can't do anything until he physically breaks in. And I'll even say that as someone who has had like, you know, people tweaking out trying to break into my apartment, and I'm on the phone with the fucking cops and they can't do anything. They're like, oh, we can send someone by, like, it's not an emergency, so we'll send someone by in maybe like the next 45 minutes, but they cannot do anything until they physically break in. But this woman on a fucking call with customer support is getting hit with a fucking terrorism charge. It's so fucking obvious what they're trying to do. Because
hit with a felony.
Yeah, they're using this all as a method of silencing dissent, genuinely.
Yeah. Also, one thing that's super cool is that there is a GoFundMe for Brianna Boston's legal defense, and it's at $70,000 right now.
Incredible.
So,
but also crazy that we even have to do that. But that we live in different worlds. It's us versus them. And I think this is like the closest we've gotten to class consciousness. And I think that's why these motherfuckers are scared. That's why when they took Luigi out to his court date, his sentencing, whatever the fuck it was that they were doing today in New York, they had like 50 fucking people, 50 fucking armed FBI, police, all these different people around. He looked like the fucking Joker being caught in Gotham.
Walking through the streets like a parade. Insane.
He got a presidential escort through the streets of New York, and shout out, because the streets that they even tried to take him down, like side streets that weren't as populated, there were crowds of people on the sides of the streets with signs cheering. It was fucking hilarious. But it's so fucking obvious, like what they're trying to do. It's the ruling class, billionaires, or however you define the powers that be. They seem intent on suppressing any criticism or outrage.
Exactly. It's a class war. Propaganda. Yeah, they want us to hate Robin Hood so bad, but it's not happening.
Yeah. And this is genuinely the closest we've ever been to class consciousness. Go to fucking Ben Shapiro's comments, so his comment section on his YouTube video that talks about the shooter. See the hands across the aisle shaking. They would rather have us divided over identity politics or other distractions than unified in recognizing that it's truly us versus them.
100%. And what we're seeing now is a mirror of a pattern that we've seen before, where the powerless are framed to protect the powerful. So to really understand like what that means and why Luigi's getting hit the way that he is and Brianna Boston is getting hit the way she is, we really need to take a step back into history. So the term scapegoat actually originates from an ancient ritual described in the Bible, where a goat symbolically carried out the sins of the community into the wilderness, effectively purging guilt. And it wasn't about justice at all. It was about redirecting blame to maintain social harmony. And over centuries, the concept evolved into a tool of control. It was often used to shift public attention away from systemic failures into convenient targets. So today, scapegoating seems disturbingly modern, but it's not unique, and it's especially not unique to Luigi Mangione, because it fits into a historical power of blaming anyone powerless to protect powerful people, and in this case, powerful corporations. So let's explore some more of the infamous examples of scapegoating through history and how they mirror what's happening with Luigi. So first and foremost, we see the Salem witchcraft trials. Colonial Massachusetts became a cauldron of hysteria during the Salem witchcraft trials. More than 20 people, most of them women, were executed for practicing witchcraft, which was a charge based on fabricated evidence, mass paranoia, and the testimonies of a few ambitious accusers. But the true drivers of the trial were far from supernatural. There were economic tensions, disputes over land ownership, and a society steeped in misogyny that ended up creating the perfect storm. Women who defied social norms or inherited valuable land became convenient targets. As one historian noted, the Salem witchcraft trials weren't about witches. They were about power, poverty, and patriarchy.
Oh, 1,000%. I think the Salem witch trials are like the 1600s version of the doctors telling women that bikes will kill them if they ride them.
Yeah, or if you allow your wife to have, or if you're a man and you allow your wife to have female friends, that it will erode the family unit.
Yeah.
So, in the same way that Luigi, this whole case isn't about the murder of Brian Thompson, it's instead of the need to find a face to blame, no matter how flimsy the evidence is. The real issues, corporate greed, insider trading, and systemic corruption are going to be buried under a spectacle.
And you want to know what's interesting about all of this as well is like Brian Thompson is also just a face. He is like they stepped over his fucking body to continue that stakeholders meeting that was scheduled to like happen that morning with UnitedHealthcare.
Wasn't even delayed.
Was not delayed. They didn't reschedule, let alone pause. They literally walked over the crime scene tape to get in there and talk about how they're going to maximize profits.
Oh, they posted the LinkedIn job opening with like within 48 hours.
Incredible.
To replace him.
Yep. And it's like
sucks.
It's almost like you wish, I don't know, you wish you could pull these like billionaires out for a second and be like, look, like I know that you're eating from the table and you're very fed, you're very gluttonous, and you all feel like if you band together and you like suck up all the money, like that's the end goal, right? It's just them, the oligarchy of billionaires controlling everything. And they're like, we're safe, we're powerful, we have it all. They have more money than anyone ever has in history. They have more money than anyone would even know how to spend or deal with or handle. Elon Musk alone has enough money to solve hunger and homelessness in the United States and then have billions left over. And yet he doesn't because he's a fucking evil supervillain. But it's like they think that they're safe in their little billionaire class. Mm-hmm. But even when one of them gets fucking gunned down, the rest of them all just like flock together and step over it and are like, okay, what do we do to make ourselves more safe? It has nothing to do with him. Like you're just a cog in the machine of billionaires, just like we're cogs in the machine of the working class.
And it's embarrassing to think that you're not.
Yeah.
Like you're not infallible. Like you're going to get got.
Yeah.
Eventually someday. So let's go from Salem and fast forward to 1927, where Niccolo Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti, two Italian immigrants, were convicted and executed for a robbery and a murder that they did not commit. Their trial was marred by anti-immigrant sentiment, political bias, and unreliable witnesses. America in the 1920s was a nation gripped with labor strikes, economic instability, and rising xenophobia. Sacco and Vanzetti became scapegoats for a society looking to vent its frustrations, and the trial was not about justice. It was a public performance meant to reinforce the status quo. A legal scholar wrote of their case that Sacco and Vanzetti weren't on trial for murder. They were on trial for being immigrants in the wrong place at the wrong time. And much like Luigi, they were vulnerable targets chosen because they couldn't effectively defend themselves. Their guilt or innocence was irrelevant, and what mattered was satisfying public anger.
You know what this is, once again? In 1927 and now in 2024? Italian-American discrimination.
It's all the time.
That was my Sopranos voice. There's a
Italian-American.
Yeah, he's like Italian-American. I can't do it now. That you made me think about it. But anyway, that's what it is.
If you can't get to the conspiracy part of this podcast episode today, we're really driving in the fact that Luigi is innocent. So both as an Italian-American and as a scapegoat.
Yep, exactly.
Let's look at the Black Death now and Jewish pogroms. So during the Black Death, a pandemic that wiped out nearly half of Europe's population, people were desperate for answers. And lacking any scientific understanding, they turned to blame. Jewish communities were accused of poisoning wells and spreading the plague. And this baseless claim led to widespread massacres, known as pogroms, across Europe. I'm probably saying that wrong.
I think you're saying it right.
Thank you. And the truth, of course, was far simpler. The plague was caused by bacteria. Actually, so this one might even be another thing. Bacteria, the popular belief is that it was carried by bacteria, carried by fleas on rats. But the rats, I feel, are innocent.
You think the rats are innocent?
Conspiracy. Yeah, that's another conspiracy. That, like, the rats did not the rats may have like carried the plague, but they did not perpetuate the impact of the plague. What was there's like a whole thing on it. I swear we've talked about it before.
Yeah, I know. But if it's the fleas on the rats and the rats carry the fleas in, then the rats are culpable, whatever that word
I
is.
think it was humans. I think it was the fleas and lice that lived on humans that did it, and that they just really wanted to really wanted to blame the rats.
Yeah, honestly, you're probably right, because they also like didn't fucking take baths or anything. So
No. They thought that it would be fixed by aromas and perfumes. The first pharmacy was a perfume shop.
And, tell that to the doTERRA oil ladies, and they'll agree to this day.
I hope they do. I hope that they only use their oils.
They do.
To prevent their illnesses.
They do.
And I hope that the problem solves itself.
Dude, that's what I say. I hate to fucking sidetrack off this, but
I'll be a hater on doTERRA.
I'll be a hater on doTERRA all day, but I'll be a hater about just Darwinism, honestly. Like when everyone's like, no, we can't allow them to drink the unpasteurized milk. I'm like,
do it.
Do it.
Inject the ivermectin.
Honestly, yeah. Why are we stopping
the
them? Like, what? You guys, fucking let them die from the shitting, puking disease.
Yeah. In America, you're still free to be dumb.
Yeah. I'm like, literally, people are so concerned about like keeping these laws in place that protect people just out of the kindness of their hearts, just protect the populations. And I'm like, hey, this sounds like the solution to the problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
you're right. So
keep using those oils, ladies.
Yep. Good luck.
Good luck.
So I'm going to addendum this and say that the plague was caused by fleas on humans.
There you go.
But admitting this would mean confronting unsanitary living conditions and the failure of public health systems.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, societies chose the easier path, which was blaming the vulnerable minority, the Jewish population and rats. In Mangione's case, the parallels are striking. Rather than addressing systemic issues within UnitedHealthcare, i.e. the insider trading, the denial of patient health care, the negligence that it has allowed cyber attacks, law enforcement instead offered up a scapegoat. I'm having a stroke. It's so much easier to sell a simple story than to unravel a complex truth. Right now, it's being painted that he is bitter about his mother's healthcare coverage.
And it's so interesting to watch like the mass media in general, all sides of the media as well, are like getting on TV every day being like, I just don't understand. Like, are you guys really like fronting right now? Is this like a yes and situation? Is this all fucking improv? Like, what do you mean you can't understand? Like, I even got into a little argument on TikTok because a news publication had said like senseless crime or like senseless shooting. And I was like, do you guys understand like what the term senseless shooting means?
Yeah.
That means there was no reasoning behind it and it was at random. I could sit here and write a fucking dissertation on all of the different reasons why I understand why this person shot this fucking healthcare CEO. It is the opposite of senseless. It actually makes the most sense in the context of why someone would be a potential victim of violence. Oh, because they're perpetuating it themselves. Oh, because they are like at the helm of oppression. Like, oh, because they're enacting all of these like different rules and denials that are literally killing like hundreds of thousands of people. It's genuinely the opposite of senseless. And all of these fucking people, like all of these like talking heads, even from Fox News to like NBC, they're all getting on here every day being like, I don't understand why the vocal minority seems to be celebrating this and it's disgusting. And the way that they try to they curl clutch, they're like, I can't believe that. And it's like, are you guys being so fucking for real? Like, do they have a gun behind your back making you say this shit? Because I know that like you're getting hit with the same fucking denials that we are.
Like, that's what's crazy is like in one side of their mouth, they will talk about how you should not glorify this sort of violence. But then on the other side, they will glorify Kyle Rittenhouse and have entire galas dedicated to celebrating
Yeah.
this little weasel who they want to be like, no, it was a stand your ground type thing and all that. And it's like, I would say that, and then this guy comes out to what? Defend all of us against these
Mhm.
predatory behaviors. And now
Yeah.
we're all of a sudden like, oh, so much for the tolerant left.
Oh my
Like,
God. Yeah,
I'm not tolerant. I'm not even lactose tolerant.
yeah, I'm honestly the most intolerant person, some would say.
Yeah.
I
Have
have
you met
zero.
have you met anyone on the
Yeah,
left
no,
ever?
literally. And then there was that other fucking guy. The same week, I think, that the shooting happened, he was like the ex-military dude who choked out and killed the guy on the subway station. And
Yeah.
he got off and they were like celebrating him. And he was even like photographed in like a fucking one of those like booths at I think a basketball game.
Insane.
With what's his face? Who's the VP that no one fucking cares about? Trump's VP. No, what's his name?
Oh my God.
What's his name?
JD Vance.
JD Vance, the couch fucker. It was him,
Yeah.
JD Vance, couch fucker, and the dude who got away with murder and all the Republicans clapped were in a fucking celebrity booth at like a basketball game, laughing and high-fiving.
And yeah, and what's crazy about that too is the discourse of how that has impacted the homeless population, where a lot of the homeless people who have mental issues have, I don't want to say snap, I don't understand the dynamics of how they could possibly be feeling, but now it's showing them being upset and going onto the subways like I'm looking for fights or like like blowing off all this steam because then you're looking at this marginalized group of people who are now can be murdered for free
Yeah.
and nothing's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting how there are just different rules. There are different like rules of play, like depending on where you land.
Absolutely are living in separate realities.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. Like I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's honestly like scary. It's scary to just be anyone who's not rich, affluent,
and it's
well off.
Scary to like be in front of such hypocrisy. Like it's a denial of reality almost to be like you demonize Luigi, but you like hero Kyle Rittenhouse. Like what are we saying? What are we doing? It's so interesting to see hypocrisy just out and about in the light, not even trying to hide it, and then just looking you dead in the eyes and saying, no, you're wrong, I'm right. And it's
exactly
because they live in this reality where they get to make the rules, they get to pay for the rules that they want to be made, they get to lobby for the people they want to represent them, they get their way in every single stage of life. So like when they are telling you, no, this is my reality and that's what's true and yours is not, like, of course, they genuinely believe that. If you were to hook them up to a lie detector test, they would pass it because, like, that's just the version of reality they come from.
Yeah. It's make it make sense.
Yeah,
so now let's go to the next scapegoat in history. This one is fascinating. I did not know this one. Let me look up that spelling again.
Yeah, come on, girl. Get your German out. Get your German out, girl.
But I don't know if that's... So
What are you, first generation?
Gate and Dugas. Okay.
First generation, you can't
I was thinking like
that?
Gate and Dugas. You know what I mean? But it's Gate and Dugas. So Gate and Dugas, patient zero of the 1980s. So in the early days of the AIDS epidemic, Canadian flight attendant Gate Dugas was labeled as patient zero, the man supposedly responsible for introducing HIV to North America. Media coverage sensationalized his lifestyle, casting him as a reckless spreader of the disease. And decades later, genetic studies debunked this claim, proving that HIV had been present in North America years before Dugas was ever diagnosed. And the real story of the epidemic was one of systemic failure, government inaction, stigma against the LGBTQ plus communities, and a lack of public health infrastructure.
Isn't that always the theme here? It's some sort of like government failure. Like it's an infrastructure failure of the society, of the government. It's a very interesting that that's the common theme.
And Dugas became a scapegoat not because he was guilty, but simply because he was an easy target. His story was simplified into a complex crisis, merging into a digestible villain. And the same can be said for Luigi. By presenting him as this assassin, authorities are offering a convenient explanation and diverting attention from the deeper, harder to solve problems at UnitedHealthcare. These examples are highlighting a disturbing truth. Scapegoats are not chosen for their guilt, but for their convenience. They serve as distractions, allowing societies to avoid grappling with the real issues.
Yeah.
And Luigi's case fits into this pattern perfectly. His arrest shifts away the focus of corporate greed, the insider trading, and the systemic corruption that led to Brian Thompson's murder. But, as history shows us, scapegoating only provides a temporary reprieve, and it rarely leads to real justice. So the question is, like, how much longer can we continue to fall into the same story? But unfortunately for all of us, scapegoating isn't just a relic of history. It's alive and thriving in the corridors of corporate power and political influence. Let's take the cyber attack on Change Healthcare, a subsidiary of UnitedHealthcare. Hackers infiltrated the system, stealing sensitive patient data and disrupting financial transactions. And on the surface, the blame was pinned on the Russian-linked ALPHV hacking group. But internal reports showed that Change Healthcare had been warned about the cybersecurity vulnerabilities months before the breach. An IT consultant revealed that, quote, they knew the risks but chose not to act. Upgrades were deemed too costly, and leadership gambled with patient data. And instead of holding executives accountable, the narrative focused on faceless hackers. A cybersecurity expert said it best, that hackers are the scapegoats, but the real failure lies within the leadership that prioritized profits over protection.
I would also love to know how much the cost would have been for them to get upgraded security on, like, I would love to know what that was in comparison to the profits of not even annually, I'll just say like that quarter, right? I would love to see that.
Dude, even if they only took a month of their profits, when you're in the billions.
Yeah. Yeah.
My God.
It has to be in comparison, like in the billions to what this price of like codifying their security measures would be. I bet it's pennies. Oh. I bet it's fucking pennies.
Yeah. I've heard this turn of phrase a million times over where it would cost Bill Gates more money to bend over and pick up $100 bill than to just step over it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the exact same thing here.
Yeah. I would guarantee it.
But let's look at some other interesting things that happened at around the same time. Nancy Pelosi's suspiciously timed investments in cybersecurity firms like Palo Alto Networks. Her financial gains coincided with the fallout from these breaches, yet public outrage was conveniently redirected to abstract market forces. A tweet from Market Insider called it out, that it's not the stock market, it's a rigged game, and the players never take the fall. And this is not an isolated pattern. Let's just look at the 2008 financial crisis. The narrative pinned the blame on reckless borrowers and the housing market, while the CEOs and policymakers who created the bubble walked away with golden parachutes.
Yep.
Or let's consider the Boeing 737 MAX scandal. After 2 deadly crashes, the blame initially fell on pilot error and technical malfunctions. But internal emails revealed executives had rushed production despite knowing the design flaws. The pilots were scapegoated while Boeing's leadership collected bonuses. And these examples really show how scapegoating shifts accountability from the powerful to the powerless. It is a strategy for their survival. And scapegoating is only going to offer a temporary sense of closure, and the costs are going to be immeasurable. It doesn't only obscure the truth, but it entrenches systemic problems and shifts blame away from the guilty and leaves innocent people left to bear the weight of collective anger. The scars it leaves on both individuals and societies are profound. And Luigi isn't just the latest in a long line of scapegoats. He's a man whose arrest raised more questions than it does answers. He is the convenient face of guilt, and the true perpetrators are going to remain untouched, and their actions are going to be shielded by layers of misdirection. Again, as another viral tweet from Expose the Truth put it, that scapegoats aren't just victims, they are tools to protect the powerful.
before we go on, you mentioned the 2008 financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what I was thinking about recently? The only piece of culture that shows how this was genuinely caused by like the banks and the government's lack of action
Mm-hmm.
is the movie The Big Short with Steve Carell.
Yeah.
It's the only thing. It is the only fucking thing we have as a society to point back to this absolute fuck up of banks and government that led to like a global fucking collapse. The only thing we have is a fucking movie that's a kind of a comedy. The Big Short, Steve Carell, Christian Bale, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt, Jeremy Strong. Like, that's it. There you go. That's our history. That's America for you. Like, I don't think you read about this in history books. I don't think they talk about the housing or the market crash and the housing crash in textbooks.
I have no idea. And it's like, and if they do talk about it, they say that people borrowed above their means and couldn't afford their mortgages.
Yep. Just like they'll say the same for us and our student loans. They'll say that we took out loans egregiously and inappropriately and irresponsibly, and it's our fault, and that's why we should have to pay these insane amounts in insane interest.
Yeah. And then at the same time, you look at the math of people who have paid $50,000 on their $50,000 loan and still owe $60,000.
Yep.
It's legalized theft.
Yes.
But it's your fault because you got robbed.
Yep.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just a documented pattern throughout history.
Yeah.
Philosopher Rene Girard argued that scapegoats do serve a critical societal function. They channel collective anger and aggression, and they prevent broader conflicts. So now we're going to see that Luigi is going to pay the price for sins that he didn't commit while the systems that create the problems remain intact. We're already seeing him getting slammed as a terrorist when he did no terrorist activity whatsoever. Yeah. We're going to make him the biggest villain possible because what do Americans hate? Terrorism. What's within our collective memory? 9/11, terrorism, Al-Qaeda, Hamas. They're going to hit this guy with every fucking trigger word that they can to make it so that everybody hates him.
Yeah, there's God, I wish I could. I'm trying to remember the stat. This amazing woman went on News Nation with Chris Cuomo and fucking absolutely slam dunked on him when he tried to be like, why are people like celebrating this? And she said like about the whole terrorism thing and like 9/11, and it was something like, God, I'm trying to remember the stat, like 10 9/11s would have to happen to like even come close. Come close to the amount of people who die from denied claims in 1 year. Yeah. It's like an estimated 190,000 people are murdered each year by our broken healthcare system. That's the equivalent of 52 9/11s worth of deaths every year, every single week. Another 9/11. That was her quote.
And we're unaffected. We're supposed to be unaffected.
Yep.
But we're supposed to celebrate the death of the person who supposedly perpetuated 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
But if we celebrate getting the guy who's denied, who has caused how many 9/11s, we're the monsters.
Yeah.
So let's look at what happens when you use scapegoats. First and foremost, it obviously obscures the truth, and we're going to lose sight of the real issues. So in Luigi's case, we're going to look at his arrest being the primary focus instead of UnitedHealthcare's systemic corruption and insider trading into a single individual. Because the headlines stopped questioning the DOJ probe into Brian Thompson once they started up, because they were getting a little bit of steam there. But then the media started spinning a neat package narrative of closure. Hey, we got the guy. It's all good. But now let's think about how the Change Healthcare cyber attack happened. Leadership ignored repeated warnings about vulnerabilities, but the story made the news about faceless hackers from abroad. The cybersecurity attack, again, said it was the perfect crime for corporate America, and they blamed the invisible while they kept the profits. Nobody got mad at them for skirting the security that measures that they needed to protect people's information. It makes decision makers be off the hook.
Yeah.
Also, it's going to perpetuate systemic problems. It's going to give a convenient excuse to avoid addressing any systemic issues. Again, the 2008 financial crisis, all that blame was deflected onto abstract concepts like the housing market and reckless borrowers. But if you look at the bankers and the policymakers, they walked away richer than before. Mm-hmm. And the same institutions that caused the crisis are still operating with the same lack of accountability. Scapegoating Luigi is just going to perpetuate protecting these systems and allow them to continue unchecked. If the public truly accepts him as the lone culprit, the broader failures within UnitedHealthcare and the healthcare industry as a whole are going to remain untouched. And finally, it destroys lives. It's not just about obscuring the truth to maintain the status quo. It's going to devastate individuals. And that seems like pretty easy if you think that you caught a murderer red-handed. But then you look at Sacco and Vanzetti. They were human beings with families, lives, and dreams. And their wrongful execution left an indelible mark on history and a grim reminder of the cost of shifting blame. Now we have this all wrapped up into a tiny little bow because we're going to put Luigi down the same similar fate. And whether he's convicted or acquitted, his life is going to be forever altered, and he is going to be tied as one of the most high-profile assassinations in modern history. And it's going to shift anything from reputation, mental health, like any type of future we have to move forward. If we put all this blame on Luigi, it's going to have huge human cost. I think it's going to impact the community, and I think that the trust in institutions is going to continue to erode. And everybody in charge is going to continue to walk free. And it's going to say that justice isn't about fairness, it's about convenience. We caught the guy. We're still not going to save lives here when it comes to healthcare coverage. So let's look at like the end goal here. Public health efforts are going to be diverted. There's still going to be insane stigmas. And the government and healthcare is going to just be, all of their responses to this crisis are going to be unaddressed. And we're going to see it with Luigi. So what is it? How do we move forward when we have a culture of corporate impunity? I think first what we do is we recognize scapegoating is just a tool of misdirection. If a narrative feels too neat and too convenient, it probably is. And in Luigi's case, whether you want to say he did it or he's just a scapegoat or he's an MK Ultra person, the timeline really doesn't add up. The evidence is suspiciously complete, and the story serves too perfectly to close the book on Brian Thompson's murder. So who benefits from the narrative? First, we need to demand accountability at the systemic level. It's not enough to convict a single individual and call it justice. Insider trading allegations against UnitedHealthcare's executives, the claimed denial practices that hurt countless patients, and the cybersecurity negligence that left millions vulnerable are crimes that need to be addressed. And I really doubt they're ever going to be, and I doubt we're ever going to see them go to court.
Like if you want my comparison, I would say that people like Brian Thompson and just the people in charge at the healthcare corporations, because, you know, their corporations are not for the people. They are the equivalent of like a Manson to me. They didn't pull the trigger. Right? Like, that's the thing that everyone gets hung up on when I'm watching discourse between like people who are like, Luigi didn't do anything wrong. And then people are like, well, he committed murder. Yeah, Brian Thompson didn't pull a literal trigger. He didn't have to. He got to like push a button or tell someone else to. He got to like kill by proxy because the denials did kill people. Life-saving medication that would have been easily available if covered, that could have saved people's lives. Like that's murder as well. Like they call doctors and nurses who kill people on purpose angels of death, and they are within the same realm as serial killers. And yet these people can cause 190,000 people to die every year from denied claims, and they're just called a CEO. Like, it doesn't.
And they get paid for it?
Yep. And it doesn't make sense to me. The cognitive dissonance doesn't make sense to me. Like, yes, Luigi stood behind this man and pulled the trigger of a gun and, you know, pulled his fucking cat back.
Yeah.
That was okay, sure. That was
Claim
one guy.
denied,
Yeah, claim
Brian.
denied. One man. How many
One.
people in that month alone? Actually, how many people in that day? How many people on that day died because of denied claims to life-saving treatments and life-saving care because of the policies that Brian Thompson put into play? How it's interesting how we have such cognitive dissonance over the two. He is genuinely a Manson who's less eccentric and wears a fucking tie. It's weird.
Yeah. He didn't even hang out with the Beach Boys. He has no cool claim to fame.
Yeah, he didn't have any fucking dune buggies to ride in the fucking sand. And
We
no
just
hot
wanted-
girls.
Yeah, he just wanted to be an anonymous person making so much fucking money, and then everybody's trying to paint him as a victim. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird because they're like trying to paint him as a victim. All these people, it's like he wouldn't see you as the same. What do you mean? Like, I bet there's someone in your close proximity who he just saw as a number in his way of getting his fucking $1 million bonus check. It's weird how people who are victimized will turn around and like try to stand up and defend the people who like persecute them. It's so weird. This is like the thing about American healthcare and the corruption in it and the greed in it and the gluttony in it is that everyone loses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, even when you have like the highest of healthcare money can buy, you're still going to get hit in those percentages if you're not in that 1%, which I guarantee most of you aren't, since we're the 99. Like, you're getting hit with it too. It affects you too. It's so weird. It's very fucking weird.
It's like, well, it didn't happen to me personally, but I can still be offended. But the energy isn't saved for any other type of like mass murder.
Yeah.
Like, look at, like, mention wanting to free Palestine and it becomes a problem. Like, in your label, it just, yeah, insane. So, I think that what the next step to move forward is to just listen to the voices of the public, specifically activists and whistleblowers that can bring truth to light. Because Luigi Mangione isn't just a man. He is a warning that if we don't stop this now, there will be another Luigi and another one after that. And it's anywhere from ancient rituals to modern corporate scandals. But scapegoating is a tactic that transcends time. It silences dissent, diverse accountability, and it protects those at the top. But if we want the truth to come to light, we have to continue to scream as loud as we can who we support. And don't be a fucking bootlicker for UHC.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
At the end of the episode, we will leave you with this. Who benefits from the way that the narrative is being told? And who is ultimately paying the price? Because it's not the corporations who are making billions of dollars a year.
Yep. If schools taught the comparison analysis of $1 billion to like what the average American salary is, I think maybe people would have like a better understanding, a better grasp of the disparity. Because I mean, we talked about this before. I don't think anyone truly understands. I don't even fully. Sometimes I have to like look at the visuals to like really get it. There was someone who did like a visual with grains of rice. And it was very helpful for me to see and understand. Because honestly, it's unnatural. That amount of money is unnatural. So
we aren't meant to comprehend it.
No. So it's hard for people, I think, to realize how far away they are from that and how it's just like a different world and how they, because they have so much money, control and affect everything and anything. It's interesting. So yeah. Also, to say that Luigi is he's a warning. Someone else, some guy recently this week stabbed his CEO. You might have to look up the details on that, but that just happened. So yeah, I think people are real fucking sick of getting their fucking neck stepped on, so another billionaire can have another fucking billionaire yacht on another private fucking island, whatever the fuck they do with that ungodly amount of money.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Yeah. So, before we get to the end of the episode, I also want to say, I know people are probably curious why we haven't talked about the drones yet. And I think it's as simple as the drones are government drones, and if not the government, then private contractors being paid by the government. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I honestly don't think we're seeing anything of Project Bluebeam or anything like that. I think you and I talked about it a little bit, and we're being allowed to see the drones that are being seen either as a distraction or a flex. I think it might be because of tensions arising in Ukraine and with Russia, that this is just kind of like a pissing contest of look what we've got. It's probably signaling something that we don't understand as the general public, but I guarantee the government knows exactly what's going on with the drones down to a molecule. Yeah,
I'm convinced that they own them, or it's private contractors that own them. Because even if everyone remembers the weather balloon, the Chinese weather balloon that they shot down in Canada, this shit would get a fucking escort and then shot the fuck down. You think they care that it's over a city in New Jersey, motherfucker? They don't give a shit. They wouldn't give a fuck.
No, respectfully, no one cares about New Jersey.
Yeah, respectfully.
Except for us.
Yeah, respectfully, no one cares. They don't fucking care. I bet if in an alternative universe where that was an adversary drone and it landed over New Jersey, I bet every motherfucker next to a red button with some fucking nukes on it was just like rubbing their hands together like an evil villain. Like, yes, finally.
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's aliens, and I don't think it's anything nefarious in the sense of like a Project Bluebeam. I just think it's like our government doing some fucking shit. And my phone call to Chelsea was that I am now starting to feel like all the UAP hearings that were released within the last year were to get us into this headspace of that's an alien, so that the military or private contractors could go test whatever fucking bullshit they're testing in broad daylight.
Yeah. An easy recency bias, because we were recently told about aliens. We're going to see something weird and think it's aliens.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that. But what I can say is that you can go to the link tree in all of our bios. We are at Go to Hell Podcast. I am at Noelle Fain. That is at Sithlard. And in that link tree, you can find a link to our Patreon. $1 gets you in. Also on that Patreon, we talked about legal magic mushroom gummies that you can buy from your local smoke shop or online where it's probably cheaper. And with the code Go to Hell. If you, I didn't even fucking say what the business is. God, this is why we need to make a commercial.
We're doing good.
We have a link in the bio now, but it's the website is haveanicetrip.com. The brand is Road Trip, and they make legal magic mushroom gummies, which, like I said on Patreon, legal for now, because when they find out they work, the church and the government are going to take them from us. So till that happens, use the code Go to Hell to get 25% off your entire purchase. Shout out. We also have a link to our merch where 100% of proceeds are donated. We have a link to our Discord server. And of course, a link to Kelly Halloran or at Wildwood Owl on Etsy. She makes cool shit for us, and she makes cool shit in general. So go check her out. Nothing like a last minute Christmas gift. And by Christmas gift, I mean probably early July. And I don't know. Oh, we also have our Discord server in there. Shout out the Discord server. And I don't know why you'd need it, but a link to listen to us, which is anywhere podcasts are heard. And I forgot YouTube again. And we actually had a YouTube comment.
We did. It was super cool. Everything goes back to the Roman Empire.
Yeah, everything goes back to the Roman Empire. So, also on that link tree, you can find our YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, bully us. It really doesn't matter because YouTube fucking hates us because we cuss too much. But at Airy, Arey, Airy, at Airy502. Hey, Noelle, I might be able to shine some light on the jump from Greek religious traditions to European paganism, and that would be the Roman Empire. In fact, your last episode on Caligula even starts with Germany. Germanicus, Caligula's dad, got his name from his dad's victories and the Germanic territories that the Roman armies conquered. So, thank you so much for that. It all comes back to the Roman Empire. And isn't that interesting? So that's why there's like the Roman Catholic Church. It all's fucking connected, man. When it all starts clicking, you're like, because really, really, and I hope you're listening, Harry, 5 something.
I hope you are too.
The Roman Empire actually, if you think about it, never dissolved. It never went away. The Roman Empire never ended. It just turned into the Roman Catholic Church. So
it would be interesting to do like impact of culture that we see to this day from fallen empires.
It's always going to be Rome. That's the problem. So, well, that's my Roman Empire, is the Roman Empire.
Mine too, actually, believe it or not. My Roman Empire is how often we talked about Caligula and then we finally did an episode on it, and then it still all links back to it.
My favorite part is that I was actually always right, and that even though the COVID has put holes in my brain so I look like Swiss cheese, I still knew, without fully remembering, that Caligula was actually sick and cool, and you were trying to gaslight me. I knew. I knew I was
cutting out. You're cutting out real bad.
Knew I was right.
I'm going to rest on the laurels that you did not understand how electricity worked, and you almost killed yourself. So, touche, Noelle.
Yeah,
I will continue to play that game.
And I will.
Or that you didn't know New England was in the United States.
It wasn't a state. Oh my God. And I will always bow my sword to those two things.
Yeah, but you did get me on Caligula, and I should have, for someone who pretended like I knew so much about him, I should have at least known the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So
that he was cool and sexy and fun.
Match point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna go ahead. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and give a hail. Did you notice? No one else can see because we're on radio. This is my Middle of Beyond Day of the Dead Christmas sweater.
So fucking good. I saw your wrist. The middle of Beyond cardigans just are second to none.
Genuinely the most incredible thing I own. It has just gorgeous knitted zombies on the sleeves. And then, of course, the helicopter. And it's just one of the most incredible pieces of fashion that I own.
It's as amazing as you are, Noelle.
Wow. That was good.
I'm sorry. No, now I feel weird about it.
What sweatshirt are you wearing?
I'm wearing the sweatshirt that I bought for Oliver, which is all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Oh, a little shining sweater. Where's that from?
Etsy.
Oh, shout out Etsy.
Always get good stuff on Etsy.
I would say happy holidays, but I fear that we'll probably pump out an episode next week. Maybe we could try to throw one out on Monday.
We totally will, because we already have ideas, and we had an episode request about the super mushroom, so we got to get that out.
Yeah. Also, hey, Kelly, check out that code. Go to hell, 25% off if you want real magic mushrooms.
Yeah. Oh my God. The universe just comes full circle.
We'll send Kelly some magic mushrooms.
We'll do the mushrooms, and then we'll do the episode while talking about the mushrooms.
That would actually be the scariest episode known to man. Okay. They're totally legal, though.
They're legal. Go to their website. They're legal in all 50 states.
For now. Okay. Let's get the fuck out of here.
All right. Bye.
Bye.